Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. Okay, flashback. It doesn't have to go very far. Remember the horrific school shooting in Uvalde, Texas? We've all seen the videos. All these kids getting murdered. All these cops hunkered down, wandering around, shooting the breeze with their guns, with their rifles, with their body armor, with their ballistic shields, and refusing to go in while kids are being murdered. Well, it turns out there was a good reason behind that. We didn't know what the good reason was, but this week it came out. Well, at this point, let me bring in Lee Williams. He's known as the gun writer. He's actually a former cop. He's won 3 medals of valor as a cop, also now a major reporter, and he's the Second Amendment Foundation Investigative Journalism Project chief editor. Lee Williams, welcome, sir.
Thank you for the invite, Tom. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, I got my first question. I'm not going to give away the punchline on this because that's for you to do here. You were a cop. You have medals of valor for being a cop. And then we have all these cops outside and won't go in for more than an hour to save the children that they know are being murdered. And you have the story of they decide, let us know why they didn't go in. All right, you got the ball.
Okay, thank you. Well, just so your listeners remember, there were 400 cops there, and they waited 77 minutes before they entered. The mass murder in there killed 21 people, a total of 21 people. Well, after that massacre, they did some investigating, and ProPublica and Texas Tribune got copies of the statements from some of these officers. And I'm not kidding, man. They said that they didn't make entry, they told investigators, because the suspect had an AR. In other words, just when you think these guys couldn't get any lower, instead of blaming themselves, instead of blaming their own cowardice, and I don't use that word a lot, they're blaming the gun. A gun, even though the police had hundreds of ARs on the scene there. And I got to read one quote from an Uvalde police sergeant. Mm-hmm. He said, quote, "You knew it was definitely an AR. There was no way of going in. We had no choice but to wait and to try to get something better." And I mean, Tom, as a former police officer, I mean, the whole country's law enforcement community just let out this massive groan when we learned what happened. Run to the gun has been the active shooter response that's been ingrained in every single police officer since Columbine. And these guys just waited for SWAT like they had all the time in the world. Meanwhile, that guy murdered children.
It actually was even worse than that because they had at least one officer who tried to go in and they physically restrained him and would not let him go in and save those children.
That, in my humble opinion, is why the good Lord invented the butt stroke, because somebody should have just gotten those people out of the way and gone in. I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard of anything like this. You know, like I point out in the story, when you put a badge in your belt fold, there's an implied consent that you will, even though the courts say you don't have to do it, as a police officer, you raise your right hand to say that you are willing to risk your life to defend others. And we had 400 of them there, and they did nothing. And now, because they know they're still under the gun, so to speak, they're blaming a gun. They're still trying to wiggle out of it. It's been nearly a year, man, and those people that are in charge are still trying to weasel out of it by blaming an inanimate object for their own cowardice.
There should be at least 400 badges on the desk as they all turn them in and go find some other form of work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You would think a couple of them would have just gone in, but...
Well, that's the part I don't understand. I don't understand why 2 of them just didn't say, to hell with that. We're out of here. And if they said, you are ordered not to go, well, so you can fire me tomorrow. You can fire me in an hour. But right now there are kids dying, and I got to tell you, Lee, I'm not a cop, never been a cop. I carry a gun every day, and even with my little pocket pistol, which is not really a pocket pistol, my 9mm, I would have gone in with my pistol against this dude with an AR, knowing that I have tactical training. I may get shot, I may get killed, but I couldn't possibly live with myself if I didn't go in there.
And that's why it's so egregious. I mean, I'm the same way. They were hearing the gunfire while they were milling around in the hallway checking their phones, and I couldn't live with myself if this had been me. I would have gone in, or I would have gone down. Somebody would have had to stop me, and it's cowardice at the nth degree.
And I got to tell you, and local people there know who these cops are.
Yeah,
they know them by name. They know who they are. They know where they live. I am just surprised, frankly, that there hasn't been some kind of personal action taken against some of these people. And while I wouldn't condone it, I would certainly not be surprised if that were to happen.
No, and I'm so sick of this over-militarization of our law enforcement. I mean, look at some of the vehicles they're getting. Look at some of the gear they're getting. And when push comes to shove, when it's time to use your high-dollar vests and your SWAT teams and your ARs or M4s, they don't. They don't. And it's because they're afraid.
Well, they're afraid, and they are cowards. I mean, I have no problem at all saying, look, if you were there and you were a cop and you didn't go in, you're a coward. Whether you were a coward, afraid of getting shot, or you're afraid of losing your job, or afraid of not obeying a direct order, you are a freaking coward and should turn in your badge.
Yep. I mean, the military taught me a hell of a long time ago at Fort Benning, you don't have to obey an illegal order. And if somebody's ordering you not to go in there and save children, in my humble opinion, that's an illegal order.
So where does this thing go from here? I mean, because the media has been picking up on this, haven't they?
Yeah, a little bit. I hope to God there is some type of lawsuit. I mean, but money can never bring back these precious children. But it's the only currency, it's the only language these departments understand is when they have to give up some hard, cold cash. I'm with you. I think if you're one of the 400, you have no business pushing a patrol car ever again. They forfeited their rights to be law enforcement officers on that day nearly a year ago.
Absolutely, and that includes the administration there as well. So,
yep.
I'm having a hard time getting my head around the idea that anyone would do that, even though we saw it on video. Tell you what, Lee, let me do this. I'm going to take a quick break. I want to come back and let you talk about a few of the other stories that you're covering right now, because there's so much going on in the gun world, and particularly with the litigation that's going on in cases. And Lee's been covering all of that. We're talking with Lee Williams. He's known as the Gun Writer. We'll be right back with more gun talk. Hey, just got an email from a listener who's turned me on to this story. I had missed it originally. Following the Uvalde shooting, which we were just talking about here, a woman in Massachusetts went to the school committee and said, hey, what are our safety protocols there? And one of them just kind of flippantly says, well, you ought to go to the school and find out. So she did. She went to the school. One of the doors was propped open. She walks inside. She walks all through the school. She shoots video. She ends up going to 3 other schools in the district, is able to get into all of them, just walk in. Nobody asked her any questions. Nobody did anything. And she's walking in. She can see all the classrooms. She can see the kids. There's absolutely no safety protocols. And then when she puts out the video of that, then the local police and the local DA said they're going to charge her with trespassing, criminal trespassing, and a whole bunch of other crimes because she walked through the schools and basically embarrassed them. So for those who are saying, yeah, we can support these people, we know that they have the best wishes of our kids, the best interests of our kids, first in their hearts, in their minds. That's what they're going to take care of. No. Just no. You are on your own, and unfortunately, and this just makes me crazy. We're talking with Lee Williams right now. Lee, it makes me crazy, but unfortunately, it appears that the kids are on their own. Yeah,
it's a sad state of affairs. I will say one thing. Florida, of course, had that Parkland bill, the most sweeping anti-gun bill in the history of the state. There was one good thing in there, and that was the school guardian program. And we got guys now whose sole purpose is just to shoot bad guys if they come on campus. They're not LEOs, but they've got handguns, long guns, and ballistic body armor. They just show up outside when the parents drop their kids off, and they're outside when the parents pick their kids up. Not one school that has a guardian has had any kind of issues here in Florida. Wow. So I hope that program is emulated throughout the country because it just makes sense.
It does. Well, let's stay in Florida because Florida is on the cusp of getting permitless or constitutional carry. And once again, we are faced with some of the folks on our side who don't seem to understand that a partial win is still a win. And they're actually threatening the success of this by saying we must have open carry, even though that's just not going to happen. So give us an update.
Well, we are on track to have what we call unlicensed concealed carry. Yeah, sure. Everybody here would have loved open carry. And every gun group in the state wanted open carry. But you know what? Even without it, this will be the biggest restoration of our gun rights since 1987 when we got shall issue. So we're going to be celebrating a major win. It could get to the governor's desk by Friday of next week. Unfortunately, in their zeal to get open carry, there was a bill that was introduced an amendment that was introduced that would have allowed open carry, but it was written so poorly. I mean, it would have mandated you to have a level 2 or greater retention holster, and if you didn't have a holster that matched the state's requirement, you would have committed a felony. I mean, it was a poison pill. It was bad. That amendment went down. So right now, the House has passed it. The Senate hears it on Wednesday and Thursday, and we hope that it'll go to Governor Ron DeSantis' desk, and he's promised to sign it. But, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, this is incrementalism. This is a massive win. Right. And, we want open carry. I happen to be on the board of Florida Carry, which is a statewide gun group here, right. And we're going to push like hell for open carry. But we're also going to celebrate this as a major win.
We got to be smart. The gun ban folks were able to say, well, we're not going to take away all your guns. We'll just get them a piece at a time, and we're happy with that. We'll make our way through. Well, we're doing the same thing. We're regaining our rights one lawsuit at a time, as we say at the Second Amendment Foundation, but we're winning back in the legislatures. Okay, we can't get 100%, but by golly, we'll take 70% and come back for the rest of it later.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All the pushback coming on this, Tom, is like from our side. Some of the instructors who will no longer be able to make a couple of bucks off the state training requirement, which is going to go, have pushed back. And I don't like friendly fire, man. I mean, this is a huge restoration of our gun rights, and we should treat it as such. And besides, it'll make Florida the majority state. We will be the 26th state, which means a majority of states now allow some type of unlicensed carry.
And I love the symmetry of it because Florida is really where the concealed carry movement started, and people called it the gunshine state, and this is terrible, and every fender bender will turn into a shootout. Didn't happen there, didn't happen in any other states, and yet we get the exact same rhetoric now for permitless carry. And the beauty of it, this is the great irony, Lee, is the people who hated the idea of carry permits are now saying, you can't have constitutional carry, you must get a carry permit.
Yeah, it is bizarre. Now they're shall issue carry permits, biggest fans. The biggest lie coming out of them is that we're not going to be untrained. I mean, I'm a training junkie just like you are. I train all the time. All of my friends do. We Floridians know that carrying a concealed defensive firearm is a heady responsibility, so of course they're going to get training. I think training is going to increase, as will the quality of the training.
Well, that's been the record in other states that have constitutional or permitless carry. And the instructors, a lot of the instructors who are poor business people say, oh, we're going to lose our business. No, actually, more people have come in. All of a sudden, instead of having 4 or 5% of the population who can carry, you have close to 100% of the adult population that can carry, and a significant portion of those are going to seek training, even though it's not required. You have a much bigger pool to pull from as a business person.
And besides, it's just worth it that we no longer have to bend the knee, beg permission from the state, pay $97, get fingerprinted and mugshotted like a common criminal just to exercise our constitutional right.
This is absolutely going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. We have a supermajority, Republican supermajority in both houses. The only way this cannot happen, Tom, and I'm saying this to some people out there, is if our side derails it. And we were close.
We were close to derailing it. There are some on our side that really, truly don't know how to win or how to take a win and then come back for more wins.
Yeah, and that became clear.
What other stories are you working on right now?
Well, we're both affiliated with the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. And I couldn't be prouder of that than when they came out with a position paper that calls for Congress to block funding to the ATF until they recognize the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. And I know that there's a hearing on that last week, too. I mean, if we went through it, I've called for the ATF to be outright abolished because they're so weaponized by Joe Biden. And we made a list of all the things they've done, the pistol braces, the triggers, their war on FFLs. They're putting gun dealers out of business for clerical errors. They're redefining the definitions of frames and guns. We caught one in Arizona, a female inspector, who was creating her own gun registry, taking photos of 4473s with her cell phone.
Right.
I mean, they have a history of bloody mistakes. They need to go. I was so happy to see CCR-KBA push back and say, Joe Biden wants to give them nearly $2 billion. I don't think we give them a dime. I hope Congress can do that until they quit being so damn weaponized.
Yeah, and I'm kind of not quite there with you as far as getting rid of the ATF. I think you end up fixing them. My problem is if you get rid of them, the same things is just going to go over to the FBI. And It's not like we're going to get rid of the regulations. We're just going to have an even worse agency running it.
I mean, they have a great arson investigators. They have a great bomb lab. And, I've known ATF agents over the years. Some of them have all been embarrassed by their agencies. Some of them are good gun guys.
Yes, they are. Yes.
I would hate to see them go, but their administration, their leadership is so poor and so out to find good headlines that they will go and violate civil rights, just like Ruby Ridge, Waco, and the most troublesome one for me, Fast and Furious. That was the bloodiest of their mistakes.
Absolutely. And people are still dying as a result of Fast and Furious with Eric Holder, the Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, running guns to Mexico.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It killed Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, and it's killed hundreds of Mexican nationals.
Right. And it's still going on. Lee, if people want to find out what you're up to and where you're writing, where do they go? Everything
I do is at thegunwriter.substack.com. Of course, everything I do for SAF, for the Second Amendment Foundation, is at SAF, as in Second Amendment Foundation.org.
Okay. And I think I also see some of your work on AmmoLand.
Yeah. We have content sharing, AmmoLand and Truth About Guns. They'll run the stories, too. Thank you, Freddie and Dan.
There you go. Lee Williams, you do a fabulous job. Thank you for what you're doing because, man, you're digging deep. You're using that investigative reporter background of yours to bring out the stories that others are ignoring.
Thank you, sir, as do you. It's such a joy and an honor to be on your show, Tom.
Well, I appreciate your time and appreciate your efforts. We will catch up a little bit further up the creek there. You take care.
Thank you.
Lee Williams, if you get a chance, he's a good writer, really good investigator. And as you can tell, pulls no punches. This whole thing with the Uvalde Police Department, standing around outside for more than an hour, 400 of them, with their body armor, with ARs in their hands, and with ballistic shields, and now they're saying, well, we would have gone in, but it was clear he had an AR. So what you're saying is, we might have gotten hurt saving children. And that's why we didn't go in. Huh. Really? Think about that. Think about a firefighter who said, I could have gotten hurt, and that's why we didn't go into the building. You go, what? That's what you sign up for. When you're a cop, that's what you sign up for. Even if you didn't sign up for it, it's children. And there's someone in there hurting them. They're killing children. How, as a human being, do you stand around outside? And furthermore, how do you prevent others from going in? Well, I get that. You don't want to be embarrassed. If they go in, they'll show you to the world what a coward you are. And they are all cowards. You didn't go in. I don't care what your orders were. I'm sorry. I have absolutely no respect for you whatsoever.